What up, y'all? It's your boy DJ Dady Phatts here, and this is the Truth for the Culture podcast right here inside the TruRadio studios. And I'm here with a special friend of mine, man. You know what I mean? First of all, I want to say that I'm very proud of you. Two, I would never think that you would be in this realm, so it's really cool that I get to interview you and get to pick your brain about this. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Senator Bobby Powell, who is running for re-election. What's going on, man? How you doing?
Dady Phatts, I'm going to tell you, it's great to be on the show with you, and I'm really excited. You know, of course, we've known each other for a very, very long time, and
yeah.
It's a wonderful opportunity to dialogue. And I'm also proud of you.
Thank you, man.
A number of things that you've done, especially we growing up and coming out of high school, and just seeing the matriculation and the levels of growth.
I mean,
I'm super excited.
I'll never forget, like, you know, when they were like, yeah, man, you know, Bobby Powell. I said, yeah, that's my classmate. Yeah, man, he's in. I'm like, Bobby? This is you know, so I was just so intrigued, you know what I mean? And then when you like, man, let's have a sit down and talk, I said, yes, man, I finally get to really, you know, pick your brain and see. First of all, like, my first question is, you know, what made you or who inspired you to get into politics?
Brother, that's such a deep question. Right?
Yeah.
And it's a ever-growing question. I always talk about evolution and the constant becoming of who we're supposed to be and that next level. But I was inspired by Mac Bernard. Of course, Mac Bernard is the first black male county commissioner here in Palm Beach County. But not only the first black male, he's also the first Haitian American.
I didn't know that.
Yes, Palm Beach County commissioner.
I didn't know that.
Here in Palm Beach County.
Wow.
Was the first Haitian American state representative for this area. But Mac Bernard is somebody who has inspired me. And it's a person who showed me early on that there's so much room for opportunity and success. Sometimes we look at it like, you know, Bobby Powell's successful. I can't be successful because he's got all the success.
Right.
But there's abundance and not scarcity. And when you operate in abundance, you're able to figure that out. But for me, involved in politics, I think it came from always wanting to serve people. I say a life of service is a life that counts. My mother was disabled when we were in high school, and I got joy out of doing things that made her happy. When she passed away in 2001, I felt a void in terms of not satisfying a need to help people.
Right.
And by getting involved in public service, I kind of felt that you can never replace that feeling of making your mother happy, but being able to help people in the community, inspire people, and also to change the trajectory. What really happens in politics, a lot of this deals with the economics, and a lot of people don't know anything about that. So being able to be in the room, in the way, and able to impact what happens in our communities.
You're saying such good information. Do me a favor, bring that mic a little closer to you so they can really, you know what I mean, bring it real close to you. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you can get right in there, man, because, I mean, you're saying... You giving us some great information. So
Absolutely.
let's I want to ask you this: who is not senator, but just who is Bobby Powell?
That's always a good question, and the question is always it evolves. It evolves because I am everything that I have been, I continue to be. I'm a former track and field athlete at Florida A&M University and at Palm Beach Gardens High School.
Yep.
Former football player at Palm Beach Gardens High School. A graduate of Florida A&M University, HBCU. Go Rattlers! Strike, strike, strike again. I am still that same person who walked onto a track and field team, got cut my first year, and then walked back out there and earned a scholarship. That's me. Division I track and field athlete, 2002 Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference track and field champion, but also a graduate of Florida State University with a master's in urban planning, AICP certified planner. That's also me. State representative from 2012 to 2016. That's me. And then 2016 until now, through now, and after the election, I'll still be the state senator. But I'm also a father. I'm a husband. I'm so many different things. To some kids, I'm a coach because I coach football and track while I was here.
Okay.
So I'm constantly evolving, but who I am cannot be put into this box. I've done everything that I wanted to do in terms of life and goals and chasing them. And my thought process to anyone who has a dream is to go for it. Continue to move toward it in that direction, and don't worry about failure, because if you show me a person in life who has not failed, I will show you a person in life who has not been successful.
That's true. That's true.
I am everything that any kid from Riviera Beach or West Palm Beach wants to be. My mother was disabled. My dad worked construction. I do come from a 2-parent household, but everything was not easy. Mm-hmm. I know what it's like to be a kid, and see, when we were growing up, food stamps were not like they have them now. They got like a card, right? We had
the booklet.
A booklet, and if you go to the corner store with your friends, and people try to pretend like they didn't get food stamps or they didn't have any, and you have food stamps, you're like, man, I do not want to pay with these people around. So you acting like you looking. And remember, things were cheaper back then.
Of course,
you can get a soda, a snack cake, a bag of chips, and one more thing with $1.
Yeah.
So now you can't get none of that with $1, right?
Yeah.
But man, you watching your friends buy their stuff, and then finally they leave, and now you go put your food stamp on the thing, and like, yeah, that's me. All right, I'm out. But I'm all of that, and I knew from an early age that success would be imminent if I keep moving forward, because I'd seen people do it. But I also had a lot of examples of failures too around me. But it's a decision you make in your mind of what you think, what you want to do. So I'm constantly becoming. Who am I today? I'm the state senator. Yesterday, I was Clara and Bobby's son and a brother to my siblings and cousin. But I'm continuing to grow, and who knows who I'll be next. But whatever it'll be, it's constant progress. It's a principle called constant and never-ending improvement.
How long have you been senator?
6 years. Okay,
so let me ask you this, because I was telling my girl, I said I'm going to interview my friend Bobby Powell, and she was like, okay, what does he do? I said he's currently going for re-election for senator, and she's like, what does a senator do? We even Googled it, and it gave us like a vague answer. So I was like, you know what? I'm definitely going to ask you this. Like, can you really explain what does a senator or Florida senator do? Because a lot of people may not know. Like, what do you do?
There's so much information involved in that one question. And I think we would have to, at some point, Dr. Robinson talks about disaggregating the data. We have to really break it down. But the number one thing that we number one thing we do in Tallahassee that we must complete is the passing of a balanced budget every year.
Okay.
In politics, if you hear people who are elected, they've got an issue. They've got one thing that they have to do, and that is make sure that the money is spent and where it goes. The government collects your tax dollars for a reason, to spend them on services that should improve your communities. Everybody pays taxes. Even if you don't own a home, you still pay sales tax. Even in Florida, if you don't have a state income tax, you pay taxes on something. Everything you buy has a tax. So you buy a car.
I know that, because I be driving on Village, and then I see the potholes, and I'm like, my tax dollars are not being worked properly.
Your dollars are, but they're supposed to be at work.
Fix the road. That's my tax dollars.
Exactly. So the number one thing that we do, we go to Tallahassee, we vote on the budget. This year, we voted on a $112 billion budget for the state of Florida, $112 billion. And of that, $3 billion, it came down to $109 billion because the governor cut about $3 billion out of that budget. But in that budget, it includes things like $10 million for the Ernie Cox Science Center over here. There's $25 million in that budget for the Palm Beach State College Dental School. There's $1.5 million in that budget for the city of Riviera Beach and some of its water resources to make sure that people have clean drinking water. $1.5 million for Mangonia Park for a septic to sewer system. There's $50 million in that budget for coastline renourishment right along the beaches from.
See, this is great to hear.
Everywhere. Yeah.
This is great to hear.
Down the coast, we spend that money.
And you vote on these things.
And vote on them.
You vote on them. You help structure these things. Like, we got this money. It really you go and you say, hey, we need some money over here. We need money. Okay.
We structure to put it in place.
I
right?
like that. Yeah.
If we've got issues, one of the things we don't do directly, sometimes people will come and say, hey, I got a nonprofit and I need you to help me get a grant. We don't necessarily do that, right? But I can put you in contact with the Department of State, and somebody may be able to help you with a Department of State type grant if you fit one of the programs.
Okay.
But calling me and going, hey, can you write us a grant? We don't really do that.
Right.
But it's the budget, number one. Number two thing is we deal with legislation. That means the bills that you hear about on the news.
Yes.
Good bills, bad bills. For the good bills that I support, I vote for them, and I support them. And sometimes I may even be pushing them. Negative bills that I don't support, I vote against and advocate against. Sometimes pushing amendments that will change the bill in a way that it won't be as bad as it could have been. And then the third prong, which sometimes elected officials or politicians mess up on, is the out of office experience. You know what that is? Out of office experience.
Okay.
If you can name your elected officials, you're not naming them because you've researched them and seen them in office and know that they go to city council and they go to Tallahassee, and you have the ability to name them because you've seen them outside of their office.
Right.
Whether it be one of the events that you host, or whether it be doing a voter drive or a food drive, or showing up at a school. Recently, myself, Commissioner Mac Bernard, and Representative Javante Edmonds showed up at Palm Beach Lakes High School for their Government Ethics Day, right? And there were a number of other professionals there, but we are three of the top African-American Black politicians in Palm Beach County, and we're all unique in our own way, right? I told you earlier, Mac Bernard, the first Haitian-American county commissioner who was born in Port-au-Prince. He came here at 10 years old. Myself, my unique story, I was born in Riviera Beach. So a lot of kids in the Palm Beach County school system can relate. Oh, well, if I wasn't born in Haiti, my parents were. So I've got the relationship, I can connect. Oh, well, I was born in Riviera Beach. I can connect.
Yeah.
Javante was born in Titusville. We don't know a whole lot about Titusville, but they see somebody who came into this area and was able to be successful. So some kids who are not from this area who may have moved, you know, we do have a lot of students who have moved from different parts of the state or from different states who live here now, and they see it's different, but you can still be successful no matter where you come. All of us are different, but all of us have worked in connection to be successful, not for ourselves, but for the people who we serve. So as a state representative, you got the out of office experience, you got the legislative portion where you pass bills and you fight against negative bills, and I file bills. I'm unlimited in the number of pieces of legislation I can file, and I have passed several laws here in the state of Florida. The most recent one that the governor took credit for, but was mine, the bill we called Care for Retired Law Enforcement Dogs, which allows for a $300,000 allocation for anyone who decides to take care of a law enforcement dog once it comes out of service. And usually it's a police officer, and the dog, one of the canines, has been in service, it retires, but it requires an extra level of care. This would allow them to be able to pay additional funds from the state for that extra care that they are using to take care of these law enforcement dogs.
Well, you answered one of my questions, but I'm gonna ask that question, but I want to ask this first. You know, there's jobs, inflation, housing, school safety, etc. Just some of the many important issues that us Floridians are concerned about. What are you going to do if reelected about these issues?
Well, let's be clear. One, I will be reelected. Right, the way the seat's set up after the most recent redistricting, I've made it through the Democratic primary. Nobody filed against me to run in the Democratic primary. And then the way the seat is set up in the general, it's a predominantly Democratic type seat. The guy who's running against me, he's going to have to do a yeoman's job of suppressing the Democratic vote and increasing the Republican vote in order to win, which is probably not possible based on history. Right. The way the seat was previously drawn, it was still more Democratic, but there was a possibility that if enough Republicans came out, I could have lost the seat because it included Jupiter and Tequesta, and areas in the northern parts of Palm Beach County that traditionally vote Republican. So,
Okay.
and not to knock anything, but I just put that information out there because we do redistricting, or what they call reapportionment, every 10 years after the decennial census. And we just went through that process because it happens on the second year after the 10 years. So I'll be reelected. But a few of the things that I'm working on when it comes to housing, we have an affordable housing problem here in the state of Florida.
Yes, we do, man. It's
Palm
ridiculous.
Beach County,
oh my gosh,
is at the worst. And in the legislature last year, we had a governor and my colleagues who pushed things on us like Stop Woke, which is legislation that would prevent teaching history or teaching facts in a manner that would make someone who is, and it says in there African American can't, it deals with African American history, but if you're not black and you teach history in a manner that it makes people feel bad. So let's say you talk about Medgar Evers, or if you talk about Emmett Till, or it would now, you can't, because it makes other students feel bad about their history.
What like, how do you feel about that? Like that's because I didn't want to jump. I watched the debate between DeSantis and Chris, and he mentioned that, and I was just like, what? Like, this is the history.
Well,
what are you doing here?
Let me tell you something. There's so much information that has been hidden from people in terms of the Second Amendment and a number of things. The Second Amendment, right? I was on an interview and a guy asked me a question. He said, "Do you support the Second Amendment?" Sure, I do, but I don't believe someone should have a high-powered assault rifles. And he starts quoting the Second Amendment to me. First of all, number one, you can't quote the Second Amendment to me. Second of all, when the Second Amendment was written, none of us were around, right? And at the time, technology didn't allow for high-powered assault rifles. I'm sure that was not the intent. The next thing is, they go, well, you should be able to protect yourself against government. So here's a response to that. Do you know that I don't care how many guns you have as an individual. If the federal government decides to turn on its people, none of us can acquire the firepower.
Nah.
We don't have tanks. We don't have access to robots that can micro-target where you're at. And we don't have that access. The next thing is, there's only been one instance in the United States where the government has bombed its own people. You know where that was?
No, where?
Tulsa, Oklahoma, 1921.
Ooh.
That's the only instance where the government bombed people in the United States.
I seen the documentary. I made so sad.
This is one of the reasons that the legislatures pushed the idea of Stop Woke, right? Because if when we went to school, did they tell us about that?
Nope.
When we were in school,
nope.
I don't even know if they told us about. I know we knew about.
We knew about Malcolm
Rosa Parks,
Malcolm
X,
and Martin Luther King. Marcus Garvey. But like you said, Tulsa. I didn't learn about that until watching a documentary. Right. And
the Ocoee massacre. A lot of people don't know about what happened in Ocoee. It's very similar to what happened in Tulsa.
Yeah.
And these were things that happened all over the United States. I was talking to a group of students from Turning Points USA. That's the group that deals with the young lady who's a major Trump supporter. I can't think of her name, but her and Kanye had the White Lives Matter shirts on. But
Candace Owens.
That's her name.
Yeah.
This group of students came in. They were talking about how blacks had it great. Students, I'm not a student, clearly, but they started telling me, and they go to Turning Points, that in the 20s it was great because they had the Harlem Renaissance, right?
Yeah.
I said, in New York. So tell me about in the southern parts, in the southern states. Tell me about all the race riots and the massacres. When you can forget one part, and history's vast. Like, you and I have lived, we were both in high school at the same time. And since that time, we've lived a whole nother lifetime.
Yeah.
You cannot write a book that has 100 pages that will micro-target your entire life and your history. But that's what people try to do. The places that you've been, the things that you've seen, the things that have happened, and you try to place it in a book. And then remember, this is why it's important too that you write a journal. You, me, I write in a journal. I don't write every night. Some stuff in this journal.
Yeah.
But when you leave this earth, and we all are leaving this earth, whether we want to or not, life is fleeting. Every day we live is another day closer to death. But your story, if you don't have it written, will either disappear or be told by someone else. And when they tell your story,
I like that.
They leave out parts.
I like that.
So when you ask me, who am I? Who is Bobby Powell? I told you who I'm becoming and who I was and who I still am. But I can tell you that better than anybody else can, because people will put you in a box, right? Oh, yeah, he's the guy who, when we were in high school, I know him. He used to be on the football team and he ran track and he sold airheads. I'm bigger than that, right? But if you didn't know me from the time that I was in high school and you missed the rest of my life, that's your story and that's who I am to you.
That's it.
So he's still that guy. If you move to New York and you never heard from me again, that's who I am. But if you've got my writings, my personal writings, the things that I've said, the things that I've done, the things that I know, my feelings, my heart, then there's no confusion. And it's best that if you leave notes, when you leave this earth, your children will always be able to see what your thoughts were when they're going through something, because they are a part of you. DNA is a strange thing. The things that we feel today, unfortunately, our parents may have felt, our grandparents, our ancestors, the feelings, the thoughts, but many times we don't have direct messages from them. So when you write in a journal, this journal is printed. This can go to my daughter, and if she has kids, it can go to her kids and her kids' kids, and they will always know.
I think I'm gonna start doing that myself.
You have to.
I think I'm gonna start doing that myself. That's a really good point. Great point. I love that. I think I'm gonna start doing that myself.
Even if it's one note, because they're gonna cherish that. You know how powerful it would be if you had a note from your great grandfather, or your great grandmother, and it just talked about what they were going through at the time.
And you could read it, and then you could, you close your eyes, and then you can visualize it by just reading what they're going through. That'd be I'm gonna do that, Bobby.
Got to.
I'm gonna do that. I like that.
Got to.
I like that, and I hope everybody else here that's watching this, definitely does that, because that is a great point. I want to go back to, I know we talked about housing, a little bit.
Yes.
I want to talk about and this is something like near and dear to my heart and to to my girl's heart too. School safety, and we're talking about Florida. We are now parents. You know what I mean? I mean, every day, man, you're hearing school shooting. Like, when is this gonna stop, man? And what you as being a senator, what are you doing? What do you want to do to stop this? Because this is ridiculous.
There's so many things that we have to do. The number one thing is to realize that you have a problem. And a lot of times my colleagues have not recognized or stated that we have a problem. And to have children die in a school, the hardest thing for me to do is to go to a child's funeral. I had a cousin who died at 15. He drowned. I went to the funeral, and I was an adult. I might have been 30, maybe. And I cried so hard, because I think of a child as a person who hasn't had a chance to realize the full fulfillment of life.
Right.
And to know that the innocence of being a child is taken away. In terms of school safety, we put measures in place in terms of making sure there's funding for school police, making sure there's adequate protections in terms of entrances into schools. There's different checkpoints where it's not like when we went to school. They have to ask, and they won't even allow parents,
Bobby,
to get to certain places.
You go to these schools now, man, it looks like a fortress.
It's jail.
It looks like a jail. Straight up bars, when we went to school, you could just walk up on campus. It was,
and walk off.
You know what I mean? You could, you had your car. Now it looks like a prison.
And part of it is access to what happens and the information that's so readily available, and the parallels of someone seeing a shooter and wanting to be that person because it's displayed on the media so quickly.
It's terrible.
And for us, it's shocking because we're nervous. I was almost offended one day. I was my daughter, we were late to school, and I'm holding her hand and we're running towards the gate. And as I almost got to the gate, the lady was like, you can't enter. You got to go around. You got to turn around. And it's my daughter, and I'm giving her, and you're giving your child to people who you hope will protect her. That's part of the problem that we as parents face. And I didn't go into the office because they had the one gate open for children. But what happens, if somebody slips through that gate, right? I went in my car, and I was like, oh, she wouldn't let me take my daughter to where, her class or whatever. But at a certain point, I was also happy. Like, they wouldn't let me get past that gate. Because our most valuable resources are in those schools. And those are our children. They're the next generation. They're our message to the future. Their lives are way more important than ours because they haven't lived them yet. So coming up with measures to protect our children, there's also these ideas of emotional and psychological help. Florida is 49th in the nation when it comes to spending on mental illness.
Yes.
We've got to fund mental illness, but also
talk about that.
Empathy, caring. When it comes to a problem, if you got a problem, that's a Dady Phatts problem. I ain't worried about it. That's his problem. But when we take on the responsibility of making sure that, hey man, you all right? You good? Are you good? You're not good? Can we talk about it? Can we seek help for you? Mental illness and mental health is major. And understanding and driving issues that we should resolve. We have leaders in this country now who are pushing divisiveness.
Yes.
The anti-migrant, anti-immigrant rhetoric that's happening at the state and federal level of government.
Oh my gosh. This country is built on immigrants.
Right.
Built. But so I don't understand what are they saying and what are they doing? DeSantis flew a bunch of immigrants to Martha's Vineyard. Like, that is disgusting. That is terrible, just terrible behavior to have as a governor. I'm sorry to say, that's how I feel.
I feel the same way. Yeah. And I had a person approach me at the gas station, and he said to me, first thing he said to me was, defund the police, yes or no? And I'm like, I was like, this is not a real question, right? That's not a real question. No one in Florida has said defund the police, but they've created this narrative of rhetoric. So I go, it's not a real question. His response to me was, you're right, because the people who want to defund police, they all have the worst neighborhoods anyways. I was like, oh, this is what we're doing today. All right. I said, it's interesting. I knew where we were. I knew what the topics were going to be. So I go,
right.
I think it was wrong that the governor flew planes from Florida into Texas using our taxpayer money to fly migrants who didn't know where they were going to Martha's Vineyard. And the guy looks at me and says, I thought it was great. And by the way, just so you know, it's telling me, the state senator, that wasn't Florida's taxpayer money. It was Texas's. I said, really?
Like, you don't know.
So you go to Tallahassee? Because I've never seen you on the Senate floor.
Right.
Your senator, what's your name? And I got upset. I got in my car and I was disappointed because I got in a debate with somebody who clearly is, one, never going to vote for me, never going to have an open mind, and it's dangerous to even engage these type of people, because the fact that he asked the question about the magnets on my car, is that me? He should have told me what I needed to know, right? Hey, is that you? I should have said, nope, don't know who. That way I leave myself my sanity, because just like many people, there's a certain level of things that I can and can't tolerate, and being disrespectful and thinking that it's funny to harm other people by doing things to them that cause harm is problematic to me. In this country, we've always had a problem when it came to immigration. There's immigrants who come to this country who are welcomed with open arms, and there's other immigrants who are immediately sent away, and it's that, but we pretend like it doesn't happen, right? And that's the story of America. If the story doesn't fit your narrative, then let's pretend, let's turn a blind eye, let's not talk about it. And at the end of the day, people are people, regardless of where you were born, regardless of, we're all looking for the same thing. We're looking for stability. And if you are here and you're looking for stability and there's a way to provide it, then let's do it. I did not ask to be here. Sometimes people will say, well, people have actually said this to me. Go back to where you came from. Well, I came from Riviera Beach. and when I got here in Riviera Beach, I came through my mom's womb. And I can't go back because my mom passed away and I'm too big to go back in a womb anyway. So, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm too big to go back where I came from.
Right.
But recognizing, and it's the truth, that only one group of people, they call it forced migration, were brought to these countries in chains. And that involves the United States, that involves the Caribbean islands, that nobody was sitting in Africa going, you know what, it'd be so great if we went down to Florida. That'd be awesome. Yeah, we should go to Florida.
We should go to Mississippi.
Let's go to Mississippi.
Let's go to Texas.
That would be great. You know, I heard there's a lot of, I heard there's some work in Alabama. Yeah, yeah, it's free.
Nah, we good.
So nobody.
We good. We good. Now let me. We talked about the governor, and the terrible things that he's done and said, and most likely we're gonna say, hey, if you don't like what's going on, vote. Okay, but a lot of people are kind of like with voting. It's like. We got the ball rolling. People were like, yeah, we vote. And now it's kind of like, especially after, Trump and our current governor being there, you're just like, everybody's kind of like just defeated in a sense. So what would you say to people right now that kind of feel that way? Like, voting it's just, it's like, it didn't, we look what happened.
Here's two things you can do. Of course, when your team is not on the successful side, you feel bad. And policies get pushed that you don't like, you feel bad. But there's no reason to run away, right? Some days I want to run away. Some days I don't want to be a part of this process. But guess what I know, and that and everybody should know, is that if you provide resistance, people will not want to go up against you because they know that there's not going to be some way you just get pushed over. Now, there are some people who like to fight, who know that you're going to push resistance and then they're going to win, hopefully for them. But if they don't, you're here to fight. And with that, people in our communities have to realize and recognize that if you want things out of life, you don't get what you want out of life. You get what you are. And if you're a warrior, and many of us are warriors, you got to stand up and fight. Push resistance with your own resistance. Don't lay down, understanding that if you want skate parks in your community like everybody else, guess what? You got to go to city council. You got to argue for it. You got to fight. You got to debate. And if people who you've elected, or not by not voting, you are actually electing people, putting things in place, then you need to either vote to get rid of them or run for office. You want inspiring candidates? Guess what? You are the change you've been looking for. Barack Obama said it best. So people will say, well, I don't know what to do. Get involved. First thing you do is get involved. I often say that a life of service is a life that counts. Volunteer your time. Listen, learn. That's why you're given 2 ears and 1 mouth. The ability to hear stuff from both sides.
Right.
Listen to it. Make your own decision. And then after you've gotten enough information, form your own opinions and then go for it. I think that I, like many people, was never interested in running for office. I had an idea of what I thought politics was and who I thought politicians were. And when I saw that, I said, whoa, can I be the change that I'm looking for? And I decided to become that. Started showing up at places, started talking and being able to listen to both sides and all sides, because sometimes it ain't one side or the other. Sometimes it's a number of different issues.
Right.
And being able to understand them. And the next step was working with people who I could help to potentially volunteer their time on different boards and maybe at some point run for political office and be the change that we're looking for. Things get done when we work together. And there's nothing more powerful than a passionate, committed mind. If you want to see change happen and you commit yourself to it, you will make it happen. There is no box put on any of us. There's nothing stopping us from becoming successful. If Herschel Walker, who's a football player, can run for U.S. Senate, then there's somebody sitting at home right now
that could do it. Period.
Yeah. Your city council, they don't own those seats. Your state representatives, your state senators, me, none of us own a seat. County commissioners, city commissioners. If you want to see something change, get up, get involved. If you know enough, you will learn it just by being around it. And you take the opportunity. You be the change you're looking for. And on top of that, we said vote, but if enough of us get out and vote, we can change what's happening. But we also got to register more people to vote too.
Let me ask you this, since you're saying, registering an 18-year-old, someone that's, just ready, they're able to vote right now, and they're watching this, what would you have to say to them about voting?
A couple things. One, I would say first, go and vote. Find out who the candidates are. Listen to your parents. If your parents and you differ on who candidates are, then that's okay too. Make sure you vote. Even if you go and you don't vote, you don't have to vote for everybody on your list. Look at the ones who you know or who you like. Vote for them. That machine, that sheet of paper will go through. They call it an undervote if you don't vote for every election. But that's okay. You're allowed to do that. You can go in there and vote for Bobby Powell only. I would suggest you vote for the people at the top of the ticket too, but you can go in there and vote for me, period. But your vote is registered and counted. And people who get elected, when we go knocking on doors, now technology is on your phone, I will have your information in terms of who you are, your age, your address, what you're registered as a Democrat, Republican, Independent. And when I knock on your door, I already know who you are. It says 32-year-old black male, registered as a no party affiliate, and this is his address. And there's a female here. She's 33 years old. She's registered as a Republican. And okay, so I knock on the door. Hey, looking for Johnny Crenshaw? Person answers the door. Looks like they're 32 years old. Oh, he ain't here. Okay. Like, I know that's you. But, regardless. Yeah. But usually if they're registered to vote and they have voted, they'll be like, that's me. What can I help you with? Hey, man, I'm running for re-election. I'm running for office. Here's my information. Can I count on your vote? Sure, man. Absolutely. Hey, man, can I drop a sign in your... Absolutely. Yeah, great. Thank you. I've never had a elected person come by my house.
Right, right.
You get... It's a mixed bag, too. Some people, oh, man, it's great. You're knocking on doors. I've never had a person who's elected come by my house. And other people are like, I don't want what you're selling. I'm not selling anything. Well, I don't want it. Okay, well... Yeah. Get out of my door. Yes, ma'am. Have a great day.
But like you said earlier in the conversation, it's good to see, you coming out and, touching the people and getting to know them. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times, all we see are just TV ads. Don't vote for him because vote for him because you know what I mean? And then you're like, okay, who do I vote for? And so
that's one of the biggest mistakes that political people make is relying on just television commercials. We've got a walk program where we're knocking on doors right now, and it's good because sometimes when somebody gets to a door, if I'm out there, my team is out right now, I'm here. But if someone asks for Bobby Powell, my team will call me, and I will either call that person, or I will go to that door where they're at and have a good conversation with them, and they'll be like, this is amazing, I've never known this, and it's good to see you, and blah blah blah.
This is amazing. You know what I mean? Like I'm processing everything, all the information you're giving me, and I'm like, you need to, when you get reelected, you need to continue this here.
Oh, we have to.
You know what I mean? Because you're just giving out so much information. Like, I feel more safe and secure about, me voting, because there's some things I didn't know about. You know what I mean? So me talking to you makes, okay, cool. I do get a better picture of what you do and how my vote will count, if I do vote for you. You know what I mean? So
it's a science too. we have the information that knows who is more likely to vote, and those are the people that get targeted. It's also those people who are likely to vote are the ones who will more than likely get the resources back in their communities. That's what people have to understand. Housing issues, if we have an affordable housing issue in Florida, people are voting and making sure that, one, there's a housing bond. Some people have said, well, it won't work. What are you going to do then? Just do nothing? I've had people call my office because their rent went from $1,325 to $3,000. Where are they going to go? That's more than double. Where are they going to go?
Is there anything that you can do, because that's on everybody's mind? Is there like a where they can a cap? Look, man, you can't. The same apartment that I've been staying in for 3 or 4 years, you guys have not done anything here, and it went from $1,000 to now it's $2,000.
Correct.
Like, is there a hotline we could be like, no, this is crazy. Like, you can't do that to me.
The state should be able to fix that, right? Mm-hmm. But we have a state that's dominated by one party, the Republican Party, and they believe in a free market. And I believe, okay, that's fine, have a free market. However, I also believe that you should have the ability that you should cap the ability to raise rent. So if you've seen rents being raised by 100% based on, it's supply and demand, right? Mm-hmm. Cap it. If they want to raise rent by 25%, they need to go through, make it available to the local level, that they have to go through an issue on a board and tell me why you're increasing the rent by 25%. Okay, well, we're increasing the rent by 25% because it's an apartment complex where we had to reconstruct all of the roads within the complex, and we replaced every air conditioning unit, and we've had to, do major technological upgrades that have cost us this number of dollars.
Right.
So that is the result of us. But you don't tell me that I've been living in a 1-bedroom apartment that has a washer and a dryer in it that is always broken or something like that, and it was $1,200 last year, and you just gave me my renewal notice, and the apartment now says, by the way, you will see an increase in your rent of $800. So it went from $1,200 to $2,000, and you're going,
what have they done?
For what?
For what?
What am I paying for?
It don't make sense.
But that's what we've seen.
Right.
And they go supply and demand. Well, 1,000 people a day are moving to the state of Florida. That's what's being said. But what about the people who already live here?
Thank you.
What about the people who live in Florida already? The key result is this, Dady Phatts, we have to push not only the ability for affordable rents, but we've got to push home ownership. Mm-hmm. We've got to create opportunities for people to purchase homes. And people have to, I don't care if it's a small starter home. If you can afford it, get it, because your mortgage will not increase other than whatever you're paying for property insurance. But if you have a $100,000 mortgage, which you're buying anything now, it ain't $100,000. But the next year, whatever you're paying on that mortgage will generally be the same. Mm-hmm. And we have to teach home ownership, because you're also paying off a mortgage and it's amortizing, and at the same time you're building equity. And in that equity, as you pay off the home, a house is the weirdest thing. Let me tell you why. You buy a house. Let's just say you buy a house for $200,000. You can't buy one. You can't buy a house for $200,000 now.
No.
But you pay it. You pay your rent or your mortgage every month, and in 2 years, the value of that house is still $200,000. So if you get ready to sell it, you're going to sell that house for either $200,000 or more, and all the rent that you paid, it comes back to you. Mm-hmm. It's like an even wash. Mm-hmm. It's the most, at some point, it was the most safe thing that you could have ownership in, but it creates stability.
Right.
It creates the opportunity for generational wealth. Could you imagine your grandmother or your great grandparents leaving you a house in Florida, and your parents were able to live there because it was paid off, mm-hmm. and send you to school, and when you graduated or whatever, that same house, or they purchase another house free and clear, mm-hmm. and you're able to live there and don't have to pay $2,000 a month in rent because you have a paid off house.
That's beautiful.
What it would do for you?
That would set you like perfectly.
Generational wealth.
Yeah, set you up to win.
And that's
set you
what
up to win.
homeownership is about.
It'll definitely set you up to win.
that.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. My last question to you is, right, what do you have to say to people that say that the Democratic Party is like, quote unquote, like soft when it comes to the needs of Floridians?
What I would say to people is there's opportunities to get more active. If you see something you don't like, say something about it. Don't be afraid. And it's also a time to step up. I have been critical at times of things that I thought we should have been more vocal on. So let's be vocal, but also not losing who you are in your deliberation of what you need to get across. And that's always the fear of coming across as, insane based on reactions to what other people have done. And then to ignore it, like January 6th at the Capitol, to pretend that never happened. Now, that would never happen, here in Florida.
Yeah.
But to recognize it and to be willing to debate it. I was at a dinner with some people, and a guy told me he was a Republican, and he said he's a very right-wing Republican. Well, I'm the perfect person to debate with, right, on policy. Because I've been in the legislature for 10 years. There's nothing that a person who has not served in the legislature can say to me that can back me down, and I can catch you up on so many things, right? Well, I don't believe that the government should interfere in people's business because, we should, government should not be big government. It should stay out of people's personal business. Great. So you also believe that government being into a room with a woman determining whether she should keep a child or a fetus or have an abortion or not, you would agree that that's government interference. Well, I believe that, that life starts at conception, and I'm pro-life. So you don't think that that's women's health care and a family issue, right? Well, I believe that, government should not freely spend money to just have government services and waste our taxpayer dollars. So you'd also agree that it was wrong to fly planes from Florida into Texas and into Martha's Vineyard using $600,000 of taxpayer money when it costs $600,000 to fix a road here in West Palm Beach. Well, I think, we got a problem with our borders in Florida.
Yeah.
Because Florida's bordered by water.
Yeah.
You know that, right?
Right.
Are people jumping a gate to get in Florida
No.
or something? A wall?
No.
Well, it's the federal government. They created all this inflation. So inflation is happening all across the world in other countries, in Europe and all these different countries. So it's crazy because I'm thinking if the president of the United States is causing inflation, he must be pretty powerful because he's causing inflation in the rest of the world as well. Sometimes at some rates higher than ours. So be realistic and also don't be shallow. Understand and be a little bit deeper with what we understanding. But I would also tell people there's nothing more powerful than information. If you think the Democratic Party is not fighting hard enough, then arm yourself with information and make sure that the people who you support are armed with information.
Right.
The best thing you can do is be prepared, and when you get ready to sit down with somebody and they're going to debate you, like the guy said, well, just so you know, that was Texas's taxpayer money. Well, the truth is, sir, that was Florida's, because I was sitting in the appropriations committee when I voted against it, but it was in the full budget, and everybody voted for the budget, so they'll tell you, oh, well, all of the people voted that the governor could use that money. But, sir, I was there. You weren't. You didn't know that because you don't have to sit in Tallahassee for 60 days straight and deal with legislation every day. And because I do, I can tell you the good, the bad, the indifferent. I can go find every bill that was passed and tell you, and every bill that I supported and didn't support. The amendments, I can tell you, I can pull that information. Most people can't do that. And I've been in the legislature for 10 years.
Amazing.
4 years in the House, 6 years in the Senate. Nobody else has done 10 years in the legislature going back and forth from Tallahassee to Palm Beach County. So to be able to say that, there's a lot of information that I can download on people.
Yeah.
And I got a lot to say.
Oh yeah. We're gonna talk.
I got a lot to say.
We gonna talk.
But
We gonna talk.
I would encourage people to stay strong, stay vigilant, and if you don't see the ones doing what you think should be done, jump out here and do this work.
How you feel about Tuesday?
Tuesdays got me nervous. For me, I'm gonna be fine. My opponent, God bless him, great guy. I don't know if he's a great guy. I met him once. To be truthful, I met him once. He's probably, and then I've never really heard him speak. So I heard that he went to a forum and spoke about me, which is cool. I've not looked him up. What you'll find is, and it's truth. There's an island, and it's an island of irrelevance, and I don't visit that island very often. And the people who sit on the island of irrelevance, when you waste your time going to the island of irrelevance, you run the risk of becoming a resident. And I will encourage people, if there are people who are on the island of irrelevance, do not waste your time visiting them. Because if you spend 3 years there, or 3 months there, or 3 days there, people may mistake you for a resident or a citizen of irrelevance, and you don't want to be that. You want to stay relevant. You want to do things that people care about. You want to be active. So, for the gentleman who has run, congratulations, good luck. I think everybody should have the ability to run for office, but you got to do the work. A life of service is a life that counts. If you are not serving anybody but yourself, it doesn't count. And that's what it's about. It's not about BP, Bobby Powell. It's about everybody else who looks to me to represent them. I represent more than 500,000 people in the state of Florida. And those people should know at the end of the day, everything that I do is based on a decision that I think will be best for the majority of the people who I serve. The majority. I am never going to make everybody happy. I can't. I'm one person.
That's right.
It's that simple. But the majority of interest. And if I vote for or against something that you like today, or you don't like, that's okay. Tomorrow is a new day. There's people who, you know what, you voted against this 4 years ago. I don't even remember. So the fact that you remember, God bless you. I got to move forward. I got a life. I can't be mad because Dady Phatts' favorite color is blue and my favorite color is green. And we were talking and you go, well, blue's the best color in the world. And I go, no, green is.
Yeah.
Now we hate each other.
Yeah.
He's so stupid. He thinks blue's the best. And people put themselves in those boxes. So we just have to make sure that we're doing what's right at all time for the majority of the people. It is a life of service. That's a life that counts.
Listen, man, good luck to you on Tuesday. I'm rooting for you. You know what I mean? I can't tell you who I'm voting for. You know what I mean? But make sure you guys go out there and vote on Tuesday. It's very, very important. Bobby, thank you so much for coming through, man. I appreciate you, man. And like I said, we definitely got to talk. We got to do more of this because this is needed.
Thank you. Brother.
This is, I mean, just the information and the conversation to me personally makes me feel good about voting again.
Well, thank you, brother. And I'll tell you, I'm a Democrat. I'm voting Democrat. I would tell everybody vote Democrat up and down the ticket. You want to see some changes at the state level, you have to have a governor who thinks somewhat like we do. Yeah. Yep. So, hey, thank you for having me. This has been an amazing opportunity. A wonderful
I appreciate
time.
It, man.
I can't wait to do this again.
Yeah, we are. Real soon, man. Listen, it's your boy DJ Dady Phatts, the truth for the culture, right here inside of TruRadio Studios with Senator Bobby Powell. Tuesday, November 8th. Go out there and vote, y'all. What up? It's your boy DJ Dady Phatts here, man. TruRadio Studios, and this is the truth for the culture.